Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. This evening I've been asked to speak about a section from 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We go till 8:30? Is that what we do? Roughly. Okay. This section offers a progression of opportunities for engaging in Krishna consciousness according to one's capability, starting from the highest and moving down to lesser methods. Mayeva mana adhatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya nivasishyasi mayeva atu urdvam nasanshaya. Mayeva mana adhatsva, just fix your mind on me. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mayi buddhim niveshaya, and engage all your intelligence. Buddhi, engage your intelligence in me. Mind, intelligence. And then nivasishyasi mayeva, then definitely you'll come to me. Atu urdvam nasanshaya. No doubt about it, you'll live in me always. And the purport we should read here. One who's engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service lives in a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord. So there's no doubt that his position is transcendental from the beginning, from the very beginning. A devotee does not live on the material plane. He lives in Krishna. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. When he offers Krishna food, Krishna directly accepts those eatables, and the devotee becomes Krishnaized by eating the remnants. One who does not engage in such service cannot understand how this is so, although this is a process recommended in the Bhagavad Gita and in other Vedic literatures. So Srila Prabhupada's especially explaining what it means to live in Krishna. Krishna says, you live in me always. The Prabhupada explains by chanting Hare Krishna, by eating food offered to Krishna, by being absorbed in Krishna consciousness. One lives in Krishna. As Prabhupada will make, as Krishna himself and Prabhupada will make clear in the next verse, this is the direct method of transcendental love. Just absorb your mind in me. Just always use your intelligence for me. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, this is their platform. They're always thinking of Krishna, always absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So this is the direct, just surrender and always be Krishna conscious. This is the highest advice. Then, atta chittam samadhatum na shaknosi maistiram abhyasa yogena tato mamich chaptam dhananjaya. Then someone says, well, I can't always fix my mind on Krishna. I can't engage my intelligence always in Krishna consciousness. My mind is too fickle. My intelligence is not so steady. All right. Then, atat chittam samadhatum na shaknosi. If you're not able to do that steadily, abhyasa yogena. Abhyasa yogena tato. Then practice. Engage in the practice of devotional service. The first method isn't a matter of practice, it's love. We just love Krishna. We just want to always think of Krishna. We always want to be engaged in Krishna consciousness spontaneously, unequivocally. This is my life. I just want to be always engaged in Krishna consciousness. Then someone says, yeah, but I can't do that. I'm not there. That's all right. You're not disqualified. Then take this method, abhyas. Abhyas means practice. For one who's developed transcendental love, the first verse. And for one who's not yet come to that point, this verse. Prabhupada said for those who are not yet on the higher platform, there are different prescribed rules and regulations one can follow to be ultimately elevated to the stage of attachment to Krishna. Yeah? Bhakti yoga is the purification of the senses. At the present moment, in material existence, the senses are always impure, being engaged in sense gratification. But by the practice of Bhakti yoga, these senses can become purified, and in the purified state, they come directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. And there's a lot more in the purport, but I won't be able to read everything, or we'll run quickly out of time. But there are various rules and regulations, various practices to, some are positive, some are negative. No meat, fish, and eggs, that's negative. But that practice will help one to be elevated. Chant Hare Krishna. This is positive. For the devotees who begin chanting japa on the beads, then there's some practice. All right, let me chant 1 round a day, let me chant 2, let me chant 16. Devotees have different, what would you say, levels of commitment. I'll chant this many, this many, this many. So that's practice. Practice means every day I'll do that. Just as there's piano practice or there's sports practice. So there's practice in devotional service. Sports practice means, well, whatever it is, I'll do it every day. I'll do 10 push-ups, I'll do these stretches, whatever it is. Music practice means I'll play those scales again and again until I master them. Then I'll go on to the next level. So there are practices. Chanting Hare Krishna, associating with devotees, serving the deity of Krishna, seeing the deity and offering something to the deity. Hearing from books like Srimad Bhagavatam, living in a spiritual atmosphere in a place like a temple or Vrindavan, surrounding or making one's home like that, a spiritual atmosphere. These are all practices, and there's more. You can water the tulsi plant, that's a devotional practice. There's so many practices of devotional service, some major, some minor, and in the association of devotees, one can take up these practices. Not all of them. It's usually more than we can do. But especially, we can have a program of regular practice, and that will help us. Getting up early in the morning, Prabhupada mentions, that's a practice. One can collect flowers to offer to Krishna, that's a practice. New York it's a challenge, but still it's a practice. Let me find some flowers and offer to Krishna. Easier when you're out of the city. That's why I say we may not be able to undertake all of these things. So under the guidance of the spiritual master, especially under the guidance of devotees and then spiritual master, one learns to practice. And mamich chaptum dhananjaya. The result will be, by following these practices, then we develop the desire to love Krishna. In material life, who's Krishna? What do I care about Krishna? Let me get on with my agenda. But by coming in touch with devotees and following these practices, then the natural tendency to love Krishna comes out. It's not something imposed or thrust into the heart. It's already there. And by practice it comes out. Just a child learns to walk. It's not something artificial. The ability is there in every normal child. And with a little practice, the mother holds the child's hand, father holds the child's hand, and learns to walk. Because the ability is there. Even if sometimes we have some surgery or something, and then we have to practice again to start walking. In the beginning, it's like, well, I don't think I can, but you regularly practice, then you develop the strength again in your legs or what have you. And then again, that natural ability is revived. So the natural tendency to Krishna, to love Krishna, can be invoked by practice, revived by practice. So that's the next stage. If you don't spontaneously love me, all right, practice. Abhyase pyasamartosi. No, I don't think I can practice. That's too much for me, to follow these different practices, these rules. I don't think I can do that. Then, mat karma paramopava. Krishna says, then work for me. Do something for me, something practical. If you can't practice the rules of Bhakti Yoga, then just work for me. Madartam api karmani kurvan siddhim avapshi. Because by doing that, you'll come to the perfect stage. Not that, sorry, you're left out. All right, I can't follow these practices, but I can do some service for Krishna. Prabhupada explains. One should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. There are many devotees engaged in that, and they need help. So even if one can't directly practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, labor, just as in a business. So the only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification. But the same work can be done for the satisfaction of Krishna. That's spiritual activity. So this is also practical. All right, if I can't follow the rules, what can I do? I can render some service. I can build, I can hammer some nails. I can help with some practical work. I can cut vegetables. I can help with the website. I can do this. I can do that. I have some money. I can give some money. I have a place where devotees could meet and have kirtan. You can use that place. So many different ways, whatever resources I have, I can use for Krishna. And we know many devotees like that, actually. Perennial bhaktas, we can say. You know, they've been devotees for 10 years, or whatever it is. And somehow or other, they've never been able to give up smoking, or they've never been able to give up alcohol, or they've never been able to give up this or that. And yet they do substantial service. They're always ready to serve. Or they serve, when they can. So that's also counted. It's not the quick way. It would be that make more rapid progress by following the regulative principles, but they said, no, I can't do that. All right, you're not left out. Do some service. And that will help substantially. I said someone's 10 years, but it may be just, that's the beginning for, 6 months, a year, 2 or 3 years, he just serves, but then he thinks, but I should chant too. He picks up some beads and starts chanting sometimes, starts adopting more and more of the devotional practices in his life. And then he comes up to that higher stage. Or he just, his whole life, he just serves by that service. And he can become very dear to Krishna. We have an example, in India we have many examples of devotees. They're members of ISKCON, they render service to ISKCON. They may not chant regularly, they may not follow all the principles that the devotees follow in the temple, but they really serve. There's one, Mr. Shetty, now he's late, wonderful devotee who just became attracted to Srila Prabhupada and wanted to serve. And he was in the construction business, so he was helping construct apartments for the devotees who first came to Bombay. And Prabhupada said that because you're constructing a place for the devotees to live, Krishna's keeping a place for you. And I'm only touching the surface when our Bombay temple was in danger of being demolished in the beginning, at the very initial stage. It was known that the thugs were going to come overnight and demolish the little makeshift temple that we had. Called for his son, Bridge, get me my shotgun. And he arranged for his laborers to, actually been practically demolished. Anyway, he arranged for his workers to come and build something solid of brick that couldn't be torn down. And he sat there with his shotgun. No one's going to stop this. So really a sterling example, a devotee who may not always be observing all the principles of rising early for the Mangal Arti or chanting 16 rounds a day, but such dedication that Krishna can't fail to notice. This voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one rise to a higher state of love for God, whereupon one becomes perfect. Then next, Ataitada Pishaktosi, Kartum Mad Yogam Ashrita. No, I can't do that either. Maybe my family will object, or some other such impediment is there. Ataita ashakta, not able to take shelter of me by working for me. Sarva karma palatyagam tata kuru yatadmavan. Then just give up the results of your work. In the previous stage, give the results of your work to Krishna. Dedicate the fruits of your work to Krishna. But in this stage, I'm blocked from doing that. Prabhupada said because of social or familial or religious considerations or some other impediments. I can't do that. All right, then then give the results of your work to some good cause. Charity, philanthropy. Generally, we don't recommend just charity, philanthropy, because there are higher purposes. We recommend, use your energy directly for Krishna's service. That's the best philanthropy, the best charity. But no, I can't do that. All right. Then give money to an orphanage, to a hospital, to some good cause. Just be detached Don't think this is my money, I'm going to get more and more and enjoy. No, I'll give it for some good cause. So that detachment will also help me. So that one day one may come to the stage of pure devotional service. If one decides to sacrifice for the supreme cause, even if he doesn't know that the supreme cause is Krishna, he'll gradually come to understand that Krishna is the supreme cause. Because he's making some sacrifice. He's, instead of thinking, this is mine, let me sacrifice this for some higher cause. Krishna is the highest cause, but gradually he'll come to that highest cause because he's embarked on the path. He's detaching himself and giving his money for some higher purpose, his money or whatever he has. And so that's accepted. So you can see from like the very top, just surrender to me, just be always thinking of me, always absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Then, well, at least follow the rules and regulations so that you can come to that point, so that you'll develop that strong desire to be always Krishna conscious. Can't do that? All right, then work for me, do some service to me, for me, give something to me. Can't do that? All right, at least be detached and give for something, some higher cause. So no one's left out. No, if you can't do this, go home, forget it. It's all over. You're useless. No, everyone can take this up at whatever stage he's able, and then he can come to the next stage, next stage, next stage. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj jnanat dhyanam vishishyate jnanat karma pala tyagas tyagas chantiranantaram. So, better than, if you can't take to the practice, then engage in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge is meditation. Better than that, renunciation of the fruits of action. By that you'll, shantiranantaram, you'll come to peace, peaceful mind. I asked Prabhupada about this verse when I was working on Bhagavad Gita, because it's a little confusing what the order is of the different items. And Prabhupada wrote me back and explained that he said the hierarchy is less important. The main thing is that these are all meant to culminate in Krishna consciousness. That bhakti is the ultimate target. And if one's not able to go directly for that target, then these other subsidiary methods can be adopted. And of course, this whole chapter is directed toward that conclusion of taking up bhakti yoga, or the yoga of devotional service. And the rest of the chapter, actually from here on in, is devoted to explaining the good qualities that we expect to find in Krishna's devotees. And that's very sweet, actually, the description of the devotional qualities. And good. That's what I wanted to say. And maybe you have some questions.
Which chapter are you reading?
12.
So the following chapter 13 describes the qualities?
No, the rest of chapter 12. That took us up through verse 12. It's a short chapter, maybe the shortest in the whole Bhagavad Gita. And verses 13 through 20. It's only 20 verses long. The beginning of the chapter describes the difference between the impersonalists and the personalists. Prabhupada talks about this in many places, but in the beginning of the 12th chapter, Arjuna puts exactly the question on the table. Which are better? Which is better? The person who engages in your devotional service, or the person who takes the impersonal route? And he describes what that route is. which is better? Those who Shrataya Pariyope, Bhaktas Tvam Paripasate. Evam Satata Yukta Ye, Bhaktas Tvam Paripasate. Tesham Ke Yoga Vittama, which is known to be the highest yogi. Those who are always engaged, Satata Yukta, in bhakti, devotional service, or Aksharam Avyaktam, Yechap Yaksharam Avyaktam, those who are devoted to the unmanifest, the immortal, impersonal feature. That's the question, right?
How does that look like? How does that look
The
like?
impersonal?
Yeah, worshiping in the impersonal.
Yeah, Krishna deals with that in the next verses, actually. Well, first Krishna answers the question. Maya Vesha Manoye Mam Nityayuktu Pasate Shraddhaya Pariyopetas Teme Yukta Tamamata. The person engaged in devotional service is better situated. He's the best, actually. Yukta Tama is superlative. He's the best yogi. So the question's at once answered. Then, in the next verses, Krishna says, but yetu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasya matpada, those who, no, that's wrong. I've gone too far. Ye tvaksharam avyaktam. Ye tvaksharam anirdesham avyaktam paryupasate. Sarvatragam achintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam. Saniyam yendriya gramam sarvatra samabhutayaha. Te prapnuvanti mameva sarvabhuta hitevita. But these people also reach me, the impersonalists. What do? They fully worship Akshara, that which is beyond perception, Anirdesha, not in any particular place, all-pervading, Anirdesham, Avyaktam, unmanifest, Paryupasate, those who fully engage in worshiping that impersonal absolute. Sarvatragam, all-pervading, Achintya, inconceivable, Kutastam, unchanging, Achalam, immovable, Dhruva, fixed. Saniyan Yendriya Gramam, controlling all their senses. That's what the yogis do. So they have to control their senses. And Sarvatra Samabhutaya, develop equanimity of mind, so they're, equanimity of mind, they see everything with equanimity, equality. Samabhutaya, equally disposed toward all living beings. They also achieve me. Sarvabhuta Hitevritapi, they're engaged for the welfare of all living beings, saintly persons, in other words. Then the question is, how do they do that?
Yeah.
And then Krishna says, Te klesho dikataras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam, with great difficulty. Krishna says, for those who are attached, avyakta sakta, sakta means attached, avyakta, to something impersonal, unmanifested. Klesha, dikatara, lots of klesh. Klesh means trouble. It's exceedingly troublesome. Klesho adhikataras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam. Those who want to take that path have to undergo a lot of trouble. Now, how do they do that? They try different methods. Somehow or other, people talk about blanking the mind. People talk about, fixing the mind on one point. People talk about, all sorts of different ways, drilling the respiration, performing severe austerities, which, like in India, you may find people who sit down in the summer under the midday sun in a big circle of fire. Severe austerity. Take bath in freezing water in the middle of the winter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they do these sort of things. Or typically, very often, they take up worship of Krishna or Vishnu or Durga or Ganesh, one of the Devatas, demigods. Because their idea is that actually whoever we're worshiping, I'm not actually worshiping them, I'm worshiping something above them, within them. So they wind up doing some kind of devotional service anyway. Because just to sit, aham brahmasmi, I'm spirit, tattvamasi, I'm that. Sarva kalavinam Brahma, everything is Brahman. How long can you do that? When I first read Bhagavad Gita, I read a sort of impersonalist edition, and I thought it was very profound, but then how in the world do you do this stuff? Great, it's profound, what do I do all day? It wasn't practical at all. Just to sit there and see everything as one. And, when I get hungry, it's not that everything's one anymore. I want a sandwich,
That's true.
So under those circumstances, they lean toward bhakti, but they can't actually practice it properly, because in their minds, this deity that they're worshiping is not their real goal. It's a kind of time-serving devotional service. I'll do it till I reach perfection. I'll worship Krishna until I become one with Krishna, or until I become Krishna. So that's not really, like I'll serve my boss until I can take his post. Not quite devotion. So it's a kind of time-serving devotional service. They give the example of a ladder that you ascend the wall by a ladder, and then when you've gotten to the top of the wall, you can kick the ladder away. So it's a offensive, actually, mentality. I'll worship Krishna until I don't need him anymore, and then I'll kick him out of the way, because then I'll be as good as Krishna. I'll see the oneness of all living beings with God. I'll see that I'm God. So then I don't need to worship God anymore, because I'm God. Or, this can all be philosophized, of course. So, they'll say no, some idea that one commentator has said, it's not Krishna that we have to worship, but the unmanifested, unborn, something or other within Krishna. But there is no within or without for Krishna. Dehi deha vibedo yam. Vijite neshvare kuchit, the Shastra says, in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's no difference between the body and the person. There's no difference between Krishna's within and without. But they concoct something. I'm worshipping what's within Krishna, or beyond Krishna. Krishna says, Mata parataram nanya kinchidasti dhananjaya. My dear Arjuna, there's nothing higher than me. I'm the source of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhu. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. I'm the basis of the impersonal, absolute. So, so they take up different means, and often they wind up themselves doing philanthropic work and, helping orphanages or opening schools, because they can't really. They say, a slogan of theirs, Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. The absolute is real and everything else is illusory. There's only the one impersonal, all-pervading absolute that we just read about. And everything else is mithya, it's false. But then why are you opening a hospital for this false material world?
We still have to deal with the material world. We still have to deal with the material world.
Have to deal with it. Yeah, they have to deal with it. And they don't know how to deal with it because for them it's an illusion. So they, the world is not real. But if it's not real, what are you doing? No, it's all because everything is one, so there can't be two. There can't be a material world. It's only an illusion. But then they're very expert in trying to enjoy the illusion, some of them. They wind up that way. They try to worship the impersonal absolute, and they wind up with, Susie cream cheese with some girlfriend, this, that. Or they wind up doing pious work, some charity, some good work. Which here Krishna said, that's if you can't do any of the other things. So it's really hard, They wind up doing a kind of pseudo bhakti very often. It's just not. Klesho adhikatara station. Krishna himself certifies trouble and more trouble. Adhikatara means lots and lots of it. Of what? Klesha. Klesha means trouble, struggle. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes?
How would you compare like the Mayavadi way of going about things, or like the impersonal way of going about things, to materialism, just pure materialistic?
How would we compare Mayavad to their way of doing things from the materialists? Well, the Mayavadis are higher. The materialists think, this is for my enjoyment, that's for my enjoyment. I don't like that, but I like this. I don't like her, but I like her or him. I don't like vanilla, but I love strawberry. I don't like working for Google, but I love working for Apple. Whatever it is, they have what they like and what they don't like. So they're trying to avoid what they don't like, especially pain, suffering, misery, and get what they like, enjoyment, pleasure, contentment, happiness. And they think it's all going to come. If I just do the right things, whatever, take the right opportunities, develop the right mindset, work hard, whatever it is, I'll be able to get it. Material happiness will be mine. That's the materialists. And might as well do it now, because when the body dies, it's all over. So let's enjoy now, while you can. Mayavadis are much more advanced. They understand this body is temporary. The real truth is not the body, it's the consciousness within the body. That the sense gratification will ultimately be frustrating, and in any case useless. I won't be able to keep anything here. It will result in my obliging me to continue in the cycle of birth and death, life after life. Aham brahmasmi, I'm not this body, I'm spirit. So they're far advanced above the materialists. And so they try to do things that will help them on their spiritual path. The materialist is trying for material advancement. The spiritual followers of spiritual traditions are trying to get free from that entrapment on the material path and make progress on the spiritual path. So then they do different things. They read books, they chant Om, they sit and meditate, they do, and then they do philanthropic work and so on. They take up different methods by which to advance spiritually. Their goal is spiritual advancement. So in that way, the Mayavadis and the devotees share common ground. They reject this material world. Of course, we reject it on different grounds. They say it's false. We say it's temporary. It's real, but temporary. It's Krishna's energy, so it's real, but it's not permanently. It's like the cloud. The cloud is there, but it's not always there. So, but either way, we both say, no, the material world is not the place where I'm going to be happy. I have to come to the spiritual platform. Tamasi ma, Jyotirgama. Don't stay in the darkness. Come to the light. This is the Vedic aphorism. So the devotees and the Mayavadis, we're both going in that same direction.
Mayavadis?
Mayavadis, the impersonalists.
Mayavadis?
Yeah, they're called Mayavadis.
Mayavadis.
It's a bit of a disparaging term. Vad means philosophy, or, yeah, it means philosophy. Yeah, from Vada means speaking. So their point of view, their doctrine, their idea is that everything's Maya here. It's all illusion. Your home, your money, your joys, your sufferings, and whatever we see in this material world, Jagan Mithya, it's all false, it's all illusion. Everything is Maya. But, and we also will say, that this is all the product of Maya, it's not permanent. But their point, they extend it all the way up to God. That when you see the form of God, that's also a product of Maya. Because everything is finally, the real truth is the impersonal, unmanifested oneness with no form, no qualities, no activities. So then when you see Krishna or Vishnu, they're all essentially manifestations of Maya. So therefore they're referred to as Mayavadis, those who take this point of view. Everything is Maya. Either the Buddhists, they're one kind of Mayavadi, everything is void, or the followers of Shankara, everything is one, everything is impersonal, varieties are illusory. They're just products of Maya. The problem with the Mayavadis is all this variety is a product of Maya. That's why, if everything is one, where's all the variety come from? That's a problem. If the only truth, Ekam Brahma Dutiya Nasti, there's nothing else but that one absolute truth, which is formless, nameless, and so on. So what do you do about the pink walls and the yellow walls and the green walls and the cities and the towns and the men and the women and the elephants? Why all this variety? If everything is one, where does the variety come from? So they have an answer. That's all Maya. It's all a product of illusion. Problem solved. But not quite. Because still we have a question. Where does Maya come from? If everything's one, where do you get Maya from? If there's the absolute and there's Maya, that's not one.
Can you explain, why the differences? Is it a spiritual condition that happens to manifest in the physical as to why?
Why there are differences?
Yeah.
There's difference because every living being is individual. And Krishna himself is individual. In the impersonal conception, individuality is all illusory. Your sense of being an individual person is just an illusion. Just another illusion. Everything is just like one homogeneous, unnameable, indescribable, all-pervading substance. That's the only reality. Everything else is illusion. But no, we say it's real, it's just temporary. And there are two kinds of individuality. Temporary individuality and permanent individuality. In the Katha Upanishad, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam. The Supreme is the Supreme Eternal among innumerable eternals. Nitya, Nityanam. Nitya is singular, Nityanam is plural. The absolute truth is the Supreme Eternal among innumerable eternals. Chaitanas Chaitanana, the Supreme Consciousness among all the individual units of consciousness.
Is that why you have different reincarnations?
Well, the problem is
Krishna?
we have reincarnation because we turn away from that Supreme Consciousness. We turn away from Krishna. and then we want to enjoy individually, separately. We want to enjoy separately. We have our own project. That generates, those desires generate a material situation. Krishna says, all right, you want to enjoy this way? Come to this material world and be the enjoyer. You can't be the supreme in the spirit. There's a spiritual world where everyone is connected to Krishna and where everyone's serving Krishna, everyone loves Krishna. Then there's, for those who don't want that, no, I want to be the center of everything. Then there's the material world. And what would you like? You want to be a king? You want to be the world's best cello player? You want to be the world's best, you want to just be, a happy this or a happy that or a this or a that or the other thing? What is the butcher, the baker, or the candlestick maker? Whatever you want to be? Okay, here's the place. And this is, and not only in one species, you can be a rat, you can be a dog, you can be a lion, you can be a tree, you can be a bird, you can be a sparrow, you can be a cockatoo, whatever you want to be. There's a body, just like going into a store. Well, I think I'd like this dress. I think I'd like that dress. And you can pick up whatever you like, but according to your pocket, how much money you have. So on one side, there's our desire, and the other side also are some qualification. What good works have I done that would allow me to, get the more expensive body? Of which all the best is the human body. But if I don't have enough credit, or if I misuse the human life to live like an animal, then I get an animal body. So all of these things come from turning away from the absolute truth, turning away from Krishna. Let me be the center. In the spiritual world, there's varieties also, but those varieties come from our eternally natural situation. Everyone's part of Krishna, everyone has a relationship with Krishna. In the purified state, that's blissful. That's eternal. In the impure state, it's miserable and temporary also, Dukali and Shastra. Okay?
It's probably another class that would be needed.
They're all another class.
Totally another class, but it would be nice to explore the different reincarnations of Krishna. Like why Krishna had to come in.
Well, that's,
certain
I'll
form.
give you that is another class, but I'll give you the 2-minute version of the class. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, where he makes clear in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, you and I have come through many, many different births. But I remember all of them, and you've forgotten all of them. Why does Krishna remember all of them? Because he's coming not under the laws of karma, but by his own sweet will. He doesn't come because he has to. He comes because he wants to. He has some leela, some pastime to perform. He wants to do something to curb down adharma and to favor his devotees. So he comes again and again to reestablish Krishna consciousness or dharma and to favor the devotees, vanquish the demonic. It's all voluntary. And we come because we're forced. By our karma, we have to come as a dog, as a pig, as a king, as a whatever. I think this birth, if it was all up to us, we'd all be, multimillionaires.
Interesting. So we don't have a choice in how we come.
No. I can't say, well, I think I'd like to live in Rome. No, you're forced. All of us are forced, and by the way we live, partly by the way we live. We want something material, we get something material. We have all material desires, we get another material body. But Krishna is not like that. he's transcendental. Prabhupada gave the example, there was a freedom fight in India. The British were ruling, and Gandhi led a movement for Swaraj, for freedom, for self-rule. And for that, on numerous occasions, the British threw him in prison. Along with the thieves and the pickpockets and the murderers and everybody else who was in there. But now if the thieves and the murderers think, well, good, now Gandhi and I are on the same level. No. He's Mahatma Gandhi and you're a thief. But the thief thinks, oh good, Gandhi's here too, he's just like us. So those who don't understand, they think that Krishna is also, a person of this material world, obliged to come because of his karma. No. In Monopoly, what's that, just visiting? Play Monopoly?
No,
You
really.
never played Monopoly?
I
Oh, my
did,
goodness.
I
Okay.
did. I just
You
was
forgot.
not what's interesting, I was not interested.
You were not interested in
I was
Monopoly.
detached.
You weren't a capitalist.
No, I was up in the clouds.
Okay.
With the spirits.
Okay.
Serious, as a kid.
But you do remember just
Yes.
visiting. Right?
Yeah, I remember. I was not into Monopoly.
Yeah, good for you. It's like your qualification for further spiritual progress. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. Appreciate it. I love how simple your teaching is. You simplify everything. I love that you was very present and engaging. Appreciate you. My question is, so all these different methods is basically to develop the bhakti within
Yes.
the person.
Yes, that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
And all of it is
Of all the different yogis, Krishna says, yoginam api sarvesham. Of all the yogis, the devotee is the best.
and all these different techniques it's on the ladder of Krishna consciousness basically.
Hmm?
It's all these different techniques and methods is on the
Yeah,
Krishna
they're all
consciousness.
steps toward Krishna consciousness. Even just being detached and not holding on to your stuff, trying to give it for some, even that's a step toward Krishna consciousness, even if you'd never heard of Krishna. And then what to speak of those who are practicing and really trying to develop further progress. Yeah, thank you. Yes, Philip.
I'm curious about Mr. Sethi.
Mr. Sethi, yes.
His position, the highest level is you're just focusing your mind on Krishna.
Mm.
And even if he wasn't following the principles, he was ready to die for a pure devotee.
Yeah.
Where is his position?
Someplace that we'd like to have. Mr. Sethi is so special. There are different ways of attaining perfection, and one way is just if a pure devotee blesses you. If you can please a pure devotee of Krishna, then you can get everything. Prahlad Maharaj became perfect by the blessings of Narad Muni. That's all. That's all. So we can be proud, I'm chanting this many rounds, I'm doing this and that. But just by the blessings of a pure devotee, Lavamatra Sadhusange, Sarvasiddhi Hoy, just by the blessings of a pure devotee, for one moment, one can attain everything. So we have to admire with great respect and appreciation a devotee like Mr. Sethi, just spontaneously wanted to serve. It's not just cookie cutter. There's a usual thing, we want to do this, and then we want to do this, and we want to do this, and we want to do this. But then there's also, I just want to serve. And with attachment and love. Someone develops attachment to a pure devotee, that's as good as attachment to Krishna. Very, very fortunate. in Mr. Sethi. Very admirable. He left this world surrounded by devotees doing kirtan.
Mm.
Because not only Prabhupada appreciated, but after Prabhupada's departure, all the devotees also had so much regard and affection for Mr. Sethi. So in his last days, they all came for kirtan, and he left this world surrounded by kirtan devotees. Yes.
And I almost have like a opposite end of the spectrum question about practice.
Hmm.
So you would use the example of like piano and sports, and you
Mm.
see both people might practice, but one person might get a better result than the other. So what's the quality of practice that leads someone to develop that love?
What's the quality of practice? Determination, detachment. I'll give up the movie to practice my violin. So detachment, determination, faith. I may not be, I may not have the muscles now, but if I stick to this, they'll develop. He has confidence that if I've taken the right method, if I just stick to this, the result will come. Rupa Goswami summarizes, Utsaha Nishchaya Antarya, enthusiasm. Let me do it, let me do it, let me do it. Enthusiasm. Nishchaya, confidence. Yes, right, it's right. Dharya, determination, let me stick to it. And tat karma pravartana, let me not cheat. Let me follow the method. Not that I'll learn Spanish, but I'll cheat on the conjugations, And your Spanish will be not so great.
Spanglish.
Spanglish, yes.
English.
So tat karma pravartana. All right, there's a method. The spiritual master has given me a method, or the teacher, if it's sports or music, has given me a method. Let me patiently follow that method, do the things that he's told me to do. And sadhu sangha, to associate with devotees. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. To do all of this in the association of devotees, because that association is so uplifting. And sato-vrite, to live in the mode of goodness, or to have live honestly. Hare Krishna. Time, yes?
Can you say something for your books, Maharaj?
The books, yeah. Blue books and the red books. This is the blue book, Srila Prabhupada's Kirtan Standards, for devotees who are chanting Hare Krishna in the Kirtan and who want to know what Prabhupada said about it, both in a sort of general way, philosophical, why are we chanting? What are we doing when we chant? Where should our minds be? What should be our consciousness? Those sort of guidelines. And then very particular things. What should we chant? What should we not chant? How should we play the instruments? How should we not play the instruments? So many particular things also, because there's a way to do it. So all of those things have been collected, compiled, commented on in the Blue Books. So this is a book for devotees. Those who are not chanting Hare Krishna have no need of this book. What will they do with it? Maybe they'll pick up something, but basically it's meant for practicing devotees. And the red book, because also so many wrong ideas come, if we don't. So it's a handbook, how to do it. Vanity Karma is a book intended for outsiders. You may know something about Krishna consciousness, you may know zero about Krishna consciousness. It's a commentary on a biblical book from the point of view of Bhagavad Gita and Vedic literature. And you may know nothing about the Bible also, that's fine. It assumes that we don't know anything about either, or that we don't need to know anything about either. But it seeks to comment on Ecclesiastes, which is sometimes described as the one philosophical book in the Old Testament of the Bible. Deeply philosophical book, which begins with the declaration that everything is meaningless. That's the opening shot in Ecclesiastes, that everything is meaningless. And then the speaker of the book tries to deal with that, you could say, realization, that perception, that understanding, you could say, that everything in this world is ultimately meaningless. What do I do with that? So he's deeply troubled by that. That perception. So the subtitle is, how's living even worth it? And that's actually taken from a word he uses. He uses a word, what profit is there in our life? What do we get out of it? What's the bottom line? It appears to be zero. So what gain, what profit, what point? What's the point of living even? And he goes into that with great honesty and almost brutal commitment to true understanding. And so we speak about, and he has many, it's not a book of systematic philosophy, okay, start here like Aristotle or something, divide everything into categories and analyze the categories. It's thought. And he touches on many topics. There's some passages that are especially appreciated for their beauty. To everything there's a season, a time to every purpose. That's Ecclesiastes.
One of my favorite scriptures.
Yeah, such a beautiful passage. The fly in the ointment, that's from Ecclesiastes. The walls have ears, that's indirectly from, a little bird told me, that's from Ecclesiastes too. A little bird told me. There's so much in Ecclesiastes, and even if one never takes to Krishna consciousness, there's so much wisdom in Ecclesiastes. But then when you look at it from the point of view of Krishna consciousness, it becomes a really worthwhile dialogue, a really worthwhile discussion. I talked to some fool at Coney Island when we could have a discussion with Ecclesiastes. So that's this book. And of course, it's intended for an outside audience. It's really written, any middle school student would be able to read it. It's not complicated academic language.
Why the title?
Why the title? Vanity Karma. Vanity is the opening word in Ecclesiastes. Now it's translated in different ways, but the King James Version translates the opening. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. And vanity, in the older meaning of the word, is uselessness. He lived his life in vain, means for nothing.
Oh, wow.
So vanity of vanities, it's not pride, it's not, primping in front of the mirror. It's everything is meaningless, everything is useless. That's his opening shot. And vanity of vanities is like king of kings, or stupidity of stupidities, means superlative uselessness. And that vanity of vanities, all is vanity, not some things, everything. So that's vanity. And karma means we're looking at it from the point of view of Vedic knowledge. tell me. It's time to stop, right? Okay.
What a beautiful class. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to Jayadvaita Swami that he came and gave us from his time. And if someone is interested from the books, I'm here, I can help you. And I hope Maharaj will spend a little bit more time with us on the other side. So generally at the end we have kirtan because now we are a little bit over time. I suggest that we just go for the final.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much. And please come on the other side for our vegetarian dinner. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Let's chant the mantra, then I can do that.